Yeshua, the Passover Lamb of the first year, the month of Aviv. John 11:55. Passover was nigh at hand, and many went up to Jerusalem before Passover to mikveh and offer sacrifices to purify themselves. They looked for Yeshua and spoke among themselves as they stood in the temple. Do you think that he will not come to the feast? Both the chief Kohanim and the Purishim had given an order that if any man knew where he was, that he should declare it, and that they might arrest him. Approaching Bethany, Yeshua instructs his disciples to secure a young ass that would be needed the following morning, the 9th day of the first month, the month of Aviv. John 12:1. 6 days before Passover, Yeshua approached the Beit Tianah where Lazarus lived. This was the same man who had died and whom Yeshua had raised from the dead. Mark 11:1. When they came near to Jerusalem, approaching the Beit Page and the Beit Tianah on the Mount of Olives, Yeshua sent two of his disciples, saying, "Go your way into the village, and over against you, as soon as you enter into it, you will find a colt tied on which no one has sat. Loose him and bring him. If anyone asks you, 'Why do you do this?' say, 'The master needs him,' and he will immediately send him." They went their way and found the colt tied by the door outside of a place that the main intersection in the village, and they loosed him. They replied to those who stood there, just as Yeshua had instructed them, and they allowed them to go. I wanted to point out that the names of these two places, Bethany and Bethphage, mean house of early figs and house of figs. Luke 19:29. When he came near to Beit Page and Beit Tianah on the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples, saying, "Go into the village over against us. When you enter, you will find a colt tied upon which a man has never sat. Loose him and bring him. If any man asks, 'Why do you loose him?' say this to him, 'Because our master has need of him.'" Those who were sent went their way and found it even as he had told them. As they were loosing the colt, the owner said to them, "Why do you loose the colt?" They replied, "Our master has need of him." Matthew 21:1. When they drew near to Jerusalem, they had come to Beit Page on the Mount of Olives. Yeshua sent two disciples, saying, "Go immediately into the village over against you, where you shall find an ass tied and a young colt with her. Loose the colt and bring it to me. If anyone says anything to you, you shall say, 'The master has need of him,' and he will immediately release it." This was to be done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet Zechariah. "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king comes to you. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon a male ass, a young colt of a female ass." The disciples went and did as Yeshua commanded them, and they brought the colt. I'm going to read the footnote that he has here, where he's talking about the colt. He has a footnote, and so I'm just going to read that. The Greek text of Matthew quotes the prophet Zechariah as was translated from Aramaic text, which is a paraphrase of the original Hebrew. The ancient Hebrew text of Matthew quotes Hebrew Zechariah 9:9 verbatim. The English translation of the Hebrew version of Zechariah's prophecy is supplied in the CKJV. Both the Greek version of Matthew and the KJV add words to the text in order to get both the female ass and the colt to Yeshua, because the Greek translation of Matthew caused the misunderstanding that both animals were needed to fulfill the prophecy. The Hebrew text of Zechariah simply declares that the fact that it will not be just an ass but a colt, an inexperienced young male ass upon which no man had ever sat. The Torah instructs that we are to give our animals rest on the Sabbath day, Deuteronomy 5:14. Yet, in order to fulfill the prophecy of the king riding into Jerusalem on a male ass, Yeshua must do so on the 10th day of the month, when the spotless lamb from Bethlehem is triumphantly paraded into the gates as the Passover Lamb for the nation. That particular year, that prophetic event happened on the weekly Sabbath. The ass chosen by Yeshua and prophesied by Zechariah has never worked a day in its life, and therefore does not require rest on the Sabbath, because if it hasn't worked, it doesn't need rest. I was going to skip this next part and just go to the reason why the colt is chosen and everything. The yeah, I can't even say it. But I don't want to skip any parts. I'm just going to go straight through as it's reading. Miriam anoints Yeshua's head and feet at supper at Shimon's house in Bethany, the 10th day of the first month. This particular story is written in Matthew, Mark, and John, not Luke. That's how he lays it out. So, John 12:2. There in Bethany, they made supper for Yeshua. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those who reclined at the table with him. Miriam took a pound of very costly spikenard ointment and anointed the feet of Yeshua and wiped his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the ointment. Then one of his disciples, Yehudas ben Shimon of Iscariota, which was soon to betray him, said, "Why was this ointment not sold for 300 denarius, 300 days' wages, and given to the poor?" This he said not because he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the disciples' purse and stole that which was put into it. Then Yeshua said, "Leave her alone. She has reserved this precious gift in preparation for my burial. You will always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me." Many of the Parashim knew that Yeshua was there, and they came not only to see Yeshua, but that they might also see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. But the ruling Kohanim had also conspired to put Lazarus to death, as well as Yeshua, because Lazarus was the reason that many of the Parashim abandoned them and believed in Yeshua. Matthew 26:6. When Yeshua was in Bethany in the house of Shimon the healed leper, there came to him a woman having an alabaster box of very costly ointment, and poured it on his head as he reclined at dinner. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, "What is the purpose of such waste? This anointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor." When Yeshua understood it, he said to them, "Why trouble you the woman? For she hath done a good work upon me. For you always have the poor with you, but me you do not always have. For in that she has poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Truth I say to you, wherever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, that which this woman has done shall also be told as a memorial of her." Mark 14:3. When they were in Bethany, Yeshua reclined at dinner in the house of Shimon the healed leper. In came a woman with an alabaster box of very precious spikenard ointment, and she broke the box and poured it on Yeshua's head. There were some that had indignation within themselves and said, "Why was this ointment wasted? It could have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor." They murmured against her, but Yeshua said, "Leave her alone. Why are you harassing her? She has done a good work for me. You will always have the poor with you, and wherever you want, you may do good to them, but you will not always have me. She has done what she is able to do. She has come beforehand to anoint my body for burial. Truth I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the whole world, this which she has done shall also be told as a memorial of her generous act of kindness to me." The triumphal entry of the Passover Lamb on the morning of the next day. This is the Sabbath, 10th day of the first month. So this is in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. John 12:12. On the next day, many of the people that came to the feast heard that Yeshua was coming to Jerusalem. They took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, crying, "Hosanna, blessed is the King of Israel that come in the name of Yahweh." Yeshua found a young ass the day before and was sitting on it, as it is written, "Fear not, daughter of Zion. Behold, your king comes, sitting on an ass's colt." His disciples did not understand these things at first, but when Yeshua was glorified, then they remembered that those things were written of him and that they had done these things for him. And then there's a note to that, which I'm going to read. The things that were being done in the triumphal entry of Yeshua are the very things that had been done as part of the temple service in the selecting of the Passover Lamb. David was the prophet who put all of these prophetic shadow pictures in place, and now the Son of David is fulfilling these holy rehearsals just as Israel had rehearsed them from the time that Solomon dedicated the first temple. Shaul declared a mystery that had been hidden from both the disciples and from the princes of this world. For if they had known that the feasts of Yahweh are all prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come, as in Yeshua Messiah fulfilling the feast days in his flesh, right? Hebrews 10:1, Colossians 2:16 through 17. They never would have crucified Yeshua, 1 Corinthians 2:7 through 8. And the plan of the Almighty would have been circumvented, even though his disciples did not understand the prophetic ramifications of that which was transpiring before their eyes. A retrospective understanding of the temple service clarifies what Yeshua was doing each day as he fulfilled the prophetic shadow pictures embedded in Passover. Yachanan did not proclaim Yeshua as the Lamb of Yahweh because of similar physical characteristics, but rather as his role foreshadowed in Passover and the picture of a substitutionary sacrifice. The depth of this rehearsal cannot be fully explored here in these footnotes, and I'll try and add those later. So I'm just going to finish reading the triumphal entry. Matthew 21:7b. The disciples put their garments on an ass's young colt and set Yeshua on it. A very great multitude spread their garments in the way, and others, having cut down branches from the trees, strewn them in the path. The multitude went before and followed after, crying, Hosanna, the Son of David. Blessed is he that comes in the name of Yahweh. Hosanna in the highest. When he entered Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, Who is this? A multitude responded, This is the prophet Yeshua from Nazareth in Galilee. Matthew 21:15. When the ruling Kohanim and sages saw the unabashed spectacle of his entry into Jerusalem and heard children crying out in the temple, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were sore displeased. They said to him, Do you hear what they are saying? Yeshua answered, Yes, and have you ever read, Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings you have perfected praise? Mark 11:7. They brought the ass's colt to Yeshua and placed their garments on the colt, and Yeshua sat on him. Many spread out their garments in the way, and others had cut down branches off the trees and strewn them in the way. Those who went before and those who followed after cried out, Hosanna, blessed is he that comes in the name of Yahweh. Blessed be the kingdom of our father David, which comes in the name of Yahweh. Hosanna in the highest. Yeshua entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. When he had inspected everything, he went out to Beit Etana with the 12, for the end of the day was now come. Luke 19:35. They brought the young colt to Yeshua, and they placed their garments upon him, and they set Yeshua on him. And Yeshua approached. He beheld the city, and he wept, saying, If you had only known in this day, your day, the least of these things which would bring you peace, but today they are hidden from your eyes. The day is coming upon you that your enemies will build a siege wall around you and completely encircle you and besiege you on every side. They will lay you level with the ground with your children within you, and they will not leave in you one stone upon another, all because you did not realize the time of your visitation. As they approached Jerusalem, already at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of his disciples began to rejoice and praise Yahweh with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they had seen. Blessed be the King that comes in the name of Yahweh, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. As he went into the city, they spread their garments in the path. Some of the Parashim among the multitude said to him, Rabbi, rebuke your disciples. But he answered them, I tell you this, if these people should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out.